Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another Wuthering Waves reaction. Today we have Homecoming Star from the Unbound as requested by Voltorian Games in the comments of the last video. And also, I want to say something to Terranator, who replied because Voltorian gave me context in the comment and was like, oh, so he doesn't care enough about the game to freely consume spoilers. Got it. Had to read that off screen there. Nobody said that. I don't know where people get that, like that spoilers equate not caring. It's not true. I just don't mind spoilers. I'm a journey, not the destination guy. I've always said that, and I know not everyone's gonna see me say that or hear me say that, so it's like, okay, I get it, but stop with that, you know? Allow people to explore in their ways when it comes to narrative. Allow people to go, ooh, I like where the end of the book is. How did the characters get there? That's usually how I like to enjoy things. Like, I, of course, also enjoy start to finish without knowing anything just as much as the next guy. But also, if the ending is spoiled for me, I don't really see it as a spoiler as much as, oh, how did we get there? And that becomes the point of interest for me. So I'm not just like trying to shit on Terranator for that, but just in a general sense, can we stop that as a society and just allow people to enjoy things, maybe? Either way, though, I'm gonna hope I enjoy this song, and without further ado, let's go!
If I scatter like stardust, I'll steady forward, tracing a new map when my fading light.
God, whoever processes Wuthering Waves vocals always does such a good job.
What is existence but a
Also, I kind of forgot what the context was from that comment already. Like, it's been about half an hour, I've already forgotten.
stitch your wound at all with threads of light. Burn up against the sprinter, arrive at tomorrow.
Did a little round on the top up there.
Chances why we'll never know if there's any answer at all. Still we choose to rise against the fall. Nothing left to lose.
Ooh. The drums are trying to come in there. Oh. See? They
That is why we are here. If I scatter like stardust,
That's such an interesting way to handle the drums. It's like teasing it before it comes in.
when my fading light, till the day comes, the miles pass gone. Hope this ordinary life there's longer. All the faith we live in the air.
This is a very... Ooh. I love the processing on the vocal there. I mean, obviously a very emotional composition. The chord progression is so clearly trying to pull at the heartstrings for sure.
Time and space blend together in the silence and chaos. Can't hear a heartbeat, but I hear bombs. Only an endless journey sparkling all the way home.
There's the teasing of the drums again.
Praise of a bird's head, build a milestones, let it unknown be known. If I scatter like stardust, I steady forward, tracing a new map when my fading light. Till the day
I'm taking everything in here.
has gone, step upon step, reaching for the beyond.
Ooh. Okay, scale it up a little bit. Have the choir involved. That half step switch got me there. Gonna get one more refrain after this, aren't we? Got a bridge. Oh, that guitar. Love that solo in there. That is gorgeous. That's such a perfectly balanced guitar solo at that section. That was great. Let the energy kind of trickle away there at the end too. All right, I do have good and bad notes about this one. I would say overall positive, but I do have some things I want to nitpick. All right, so let's start off with the good. In general, I love this chord progression. I think that this is a very emotional, very forward-thinking chord progression. It doesn't like exclusively stay to the 4 chords that I'm about to play for you, but it does have most of the identity in those. You get some movement as you tend to. Anything that's like more complex with a chord progression, things tend to move more. Shocker, that adds complexity. So it's not like it's a 4-chord song or anything. It's just that there's a certain identity that comes with these chords and how they're used that makes it feel a little bit better. A lot of you who watch these videos on a regular basis probably know where I'm going to go with this. So to start off, we have this C, and it is a major 7th. So he got that high note up there, kind of adding that softness to it. I love that fragility that 7ths bring, and it makes the whole song more flexible. That's why I was mentioning that you guys would probably realize where I'm going with this. But we have this followed by a normal triad sound. I don't think that this has the lift on the 7. I think it's just a 7 to a standard, and it's like, okay, cool, so great, we have that, and then the 7th comes back for the B minor there, so it's like, okay, we got a little bit of movement here, and then it moves down to an E minor 7th, and once again, 7th is important here because this hooks us back into what is going to be the A minor 7th, and then we move up to the B 7th again. So here we go with another 7th, and similar to its sister here, it is very much an emotional piece, but it shifts that mood up a little bit this time, and that's why I mean it's a more complex chord progression, because it's a subtle difference going from a B minor to a B, and especially with the 7th there, it just kind of adds a little bit, you know? If anything, these two are more crunchy, so it adds that tension to the emotional lift here. Like, just because the song is suddenly getting a little bit brighter, that tension that the 7th adds kind of keeps you on your toes and you're not sure where the story is going to go, and I really appreciate that. Drops back down to the E minor, and then it grounds itself in the G here, and that's why I like that E minor 7th there, because E minor 7th is just G but with an E at the bottom, so that ends up working very well. And like I said, there's a little bit of variety in here. There's actually a D add 9 in here, which is a very interesting chord choice a little bit later on, but there are also other interesting choices being made with this song. And for an example of one of those moments, we have the spot near the end with all the choir vocals coming in. They have a change from an E minor to an E7, so we have this adjustment for just the triad here, but you add the 7th on there, and it adds a little bit, again, a little bit kind of something that feels off. It's kind of similar to that B minor to B, except this only happens the one time, so it's just a standard E minor with no lift on there as far as I can tell, but then it just goes up to that tension. Maybe that's up in there. It very well could be, but there's a lot of crunchiness in that chord anyway, so it can be kind of difficult to tell with all the other instruments going on. Point aside, that seems to be a thing they do in this song. They like using their sevenths for this song, and that is kind of a moment that mirrors the B minor relationship from the very beginning of the song that carries through most of the track. It's just a very, again, tensious moment in the song, and the fact that the main chord progression has that, and they tend to evolve that into this for the whole choir expansion. And it almost feels kind of like a key change in some ways. It's not by any means, it's just a modulation, but it has that effect on the song, especially with all of those voices adding to the density of that chord. It just feels really powerful, and you notice it a lot more than you do that B minor from earlier. So that's the sort of emotional depth this song is giving me just musically, you know? The song is rooted in emotional depth. The chord progression has a lot of it. Again, it's fairly complex. It moves around to other things. And another interesting chord we get in here is an F sharp minor flat 5. This is an interesting one as well. It also has a 7th on there, so it's more of an F sharp minor 7th flat 5. Lots to figure out in that title, but like, it's an interesting, again, very crunchy, dissonant chord that just has a lot going on there. It's like a half diminished, so it doesn't have really any place that feels right or wrong. It just kind of floats somewhere in the ethereal nothing. And that, I think, energy in this song fits so well for the emotion they're trying to push, which is this feeling of like loss in here, like not necessarily emotional loss alone, but also physical loss, like the loss of self, the sense of self, you know? It's just, this is a very complex song emotionally. There's a lot of stuff like that in this composition, and everything builds up to be this very dense piece. And that's why I think this song is really gorgeous. That said, there are also things I don't necessarily love, and I think it all comes down to mostly the drums, honestly. And that might sound weird coming from a guy who loves the drums and is a drummer and usually compliments very good drum production in a song. I don't think that this has that good a drum production. I think that the producer kind of missed the mark with this song. And the reason I say that isn't because of the part written. I think it's mostly the sound, like the samples and mixing of the drums, the production specifically of the drums. It sounds heavily produced. I cannot imagine that this is an actual player. It's probably a sample pack. If this is an actual player, it's not that it was played poorly or like, again, it's not poorly written. It's just that it sounds overly produced despite the vocals sounding very highly produced, which is a style that I'm totally chill with. And I think it fits the song. I don't think the drums should have been nearly as heavily produced. I feel like there is a process somewhere in the middle where they kind of just kept pushing it beyond where I think it would have sounded and fit the tone much better, since everything else is so much more organic in this song, emotionally and like instrumentally. The rest of the instruments and the quality of everything is a little bit more balanced in the middle ground there. It doesn't feel super clean except for the vocals, which works because they're supposed to break through the general mix and everything. I think the drums just sounded off. The kick drum sounded like a metal kick drum. It sounded extremely like punchy poppy and not something I would expect in this genre, which is a lot more flowing, and if you want to call it a ballad, sure, and it kind of is. So it just doesn't feel like it fits. And then the production of the mixing specifically as well. I think that the mixing choice to make it pan from one side to the other is totally fine. I love heavy panned toms, honestly, like the do that was going on there. I think the problem for me stems from it being right to left instead of left to right. That's not my bias as a drummer because I'm used to sitting behind the kit and that's the way it would be panned. I think a lot of people misconstrued that. I feel like people who mix will like, oh, I want to mix it from the audience perspective, like they're watching a concert. And while I understand that sentiment, it is far less immersive than I think people really expect. Like, in my opinion, and this is entirely an opinion thing, I've heard it both ways. I just heavily prefer and think it's more immersive having it go from the way of you being in the kit, especially when everything else is mixed in the opposite, so to speak. It just feels like you're in the band and you're a part of it rather than being a spectator from the outside looking in. And to me, at very least, that feels like it separates the person from the art a little bit more, and it just feels less impressive to me. Like, it's something that I note every single time I hear it, and I'm like, that one definitely does boil down largely to feel and expectation. And again, this isn't because I'm a drummer and I'm used to sitting behind the kit. That's not why I'm saying it. I just think that there is a heavy argument for mixing to make the listener feel like they're behind the kit as well, because we're not watching a live show. You know, if you're watching a live show, that makes more sense. You're seeing the instrument, it fits a little bit better, and your brain sees that process more. I think that's the distinction there. The fact that you're watching something physically, visually, you're taking all that in as well, and hearing things go that way for a standard kit setup at least is what you're expecting when you're in an audience. Mixing a final song like that without the visual input feels more incorrect, I think, to most people. I know that's definitely not a universal sentiment, but I would say the vast majority of people probably prefer it when they can't see anything, to have that visual distinction there to set themselves in that context. Then mix it the other way. Have it go from left to right, not right to left. It's just one of those things. Not a huge deal, but the worst factor of this song is just that I think they used a poor library for the drums. Or again, if this was live played, very heavily overcompressed and overproduced, even despite the rest of the stuff like the vocals. I think that they should have gone for a slightly more true to form organic sound. And I feel like that also separates the problem of it going from the right to left, not left to right. Because once again, if you're seeing a kit on stage, you're seeing the kit. That's clearly an acoustic. Subconsciously, even if you're not a drummer, you're going to put these things together and you're gonna be like, that doesn't sound like an actual kit. But maybe that's just me. Again, this is all very subjective. Mixing is very much a subjective trait. And if they like the final product here, good for them. These are just the nitpicks that I have personally. But I think I'm done yapping about it now, so thank you all so very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want me to get to something else from Wuthering Waves, by all means, drop in the comments below and I will do my best as always to get to those. Or if you don't want to do any of that, maybe just want to follow me and support me for more stuff coming in the future, including me getting to Wuthering Waves probably again next month at some point, then you know how to follow me and support me, all that. And I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!